How has a hotel project popped up out of nowhere inside the area of the new hotel prohibition just passed by Savannah City Council? Here is Thomas Bolton, agent for the developer, speaking to the Planning Commission of the MPC on December 16, 2025.
The intent was a hotel the whole time. The building permit application, I'm not extremely clear on the chronologically of it, but when it was changed to hotel motel, but the intent from the owner was a hotel motel all the time. But I think the initial application, the wrong box was checked. And so it was assumed that it was going to be multifamily.
Okay, thank you.
Here is the building permit application from 2022. In 3 different areas, it indicates that this is an apartment project, not a hotel project. This was not human error. Next, the developer himself, Michael Condon, will repeat the claim that his plans were always to do a hotel project and that any confusion about apartments is the fault of city staff.
Michael Condon, Vintage Home Builders. I wanted to answer a couple of questions, if I may, because there's some obvious confusion. I'm not exactly sure how it got confused about this whole idea of an apartment. When we applied for this in 2022, it was always going to be a hotel, always. At that time, we had our meetings and we did all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and no one said to us from the city that we needed to go through this process. Had they, we would have done it in 2022 or early 2023. We would not be here today. And the reality is that this is a unique situation. It's a situation where obviously a mistake was made on the part of the city in giving us a building permit to begin to construct something that's now 75 or 80% complete. And all we're asking for is fairness here. If we had been told that we needed to go through this process in 2022, we would have. They wouldn't have issued a permit. But it's not on us to understand the rules so much as it's on them to explain the rules to us.
Again, here is the 2022 building permit application for apartments, not a hotel. This was submitted by the developer, Michael Condon, to the city. In addition, here is a letter written to Michael Condon by city staff in response to Condon's own request for a zoning review for the construction of apartments, not a hotel. Why is this important? Because a hotel requires a special use permit, and that requires public hearings. Apartments do not. So when this project was treated as apartments, it skipped the public input required for a hotel. Also, the developer, Michael Condon, and his agent, Thomas Bolton, now argue that they deserve to be granted the special use permit for a hotel, despite public opposition, because they say the apartment mix-up is the fault of city staff. Here, the city manager, Jay Melder, summarizes, while taking the claims of Michael Condon and Thomas Bolton in good faith.
So I think the mistake here, if there was a mistake by city staff or by the city process, not by city staff, by the city process, that when either the use was put in incorrectly or when the use changed, it did not trigger another review by planning and urban design to understand whether or not that use was indeed allowable, right? So if that would have been the case, it would have been flagged immediately to say that this requires more entitlement for this use, and we would have been in a different place.
So, despite the apartment mix-up actually being the fault of the developer, Michael Condon, maybe it's true that city staff should have caught the discrepancy earlier. Surprisingly, internal documents show that it was none other than Thomas Bolton who failed to flag the discrepancy. Yes, the same Thomas Bolton now acting as the agent of the developer, Michael Condon. Let that sink in. If you think all this sounds shady and that this hotel developer should not be allowed to slip through the prohibition, let City Council know. Write to the Clerk of Council immediately and say that Michael Condon should not be given a special use permit to establish a hotel at 2512 Habersham. If you can, attend City Council on Thursday, January 22nd, 2 p.m. at City Hall, when this issue will be heard, and speak for yourself.